Okay, so we are starting off today's class as if it were our first time ever looking at Revit. For everybody here, we had, I think, a good review on our first class, which was just a couple days ago. But remember, we're starting everything from scratch tonight. That was just like a crash course introduction. And we're going to slow it down a little bit tonight. And remember that we're going to go over all of those concepts that we went over last time at least 2 more times, maybe 3 more times. Okay, so we'll see how it goes. Let's start off again with this home screen. Now, just show of hands, I know it's not due until next week, but how many of you guys actually finished downloading Revit over the past couple days? Good, quite a few of you. Okay, so for those of you who haven't yet, just make sure you do it before next week. And part of it really will be just to make sure that what you see here in school is what you see at home, so that when you're doing your homework outside of the lab, everything's still familiar, okay? So starting off, whenever we want to start a new project, it's pretty straightforward. We're gonna do a new model, and up until this point, we haven't started working on any project, so we don't have anything to open, but we'll go to new for now. And in this class, there's actually 2 template files that we'll be working off of. Do you guys remember which one we used last class in our crash course? Architectural, good. So architectural is the main default template that you'll see listed right here. And let's do this. Let's open up the architectural template as well as the residential template, and we'll compare them side by side. So go ahead and click on OK. And I'll show you guys how to find the residential template in just one moment. Okay. Before we pop into the residential template, just a quick overview. Again, we have our ribbon up here. Emily, how are you? Doing well. Again, so quick overview. We have our ribbon up here, and remember, the ribbon is nice because it's dynamic. Whenever we're working on a particular command, it goes ahead and changes so that it works on that command. When we were doing our crash course last time, when we were working with walls, it showed us some wall details. When we were doing our roof, it showed us some roof details. So just know that this is always changing. The menu that we will probably be the most familiar with will be architecture, annotate, and view. We'll get to the others eventually, but those are the 3 main ones that we hang out with. So if you ever end up somewhere like this and you don't know where you are, again, just look for that architecture menu and you can jump back in here, okay? I'm going to go over properties and project browser again, and we'll do some troubleshooting. Now remember, all of this is in the architectural template. We haven't done the residential template yet. So in the architectural template, when you don't have anything selected, your properties menu will tell you what view you're in. So right now, I'm on a floor plan. Another tidbit of information we didn't talk about last time is that the view scale, as it's shown in our model space, is set to 1/8 of an inch. So it's similar to AutoCAD, for those of you guys who have taken it, that it still is a 1-to-1 scale, but that just means that if you were to put any text or dimensions, those would appear at 1/8 of an inch, okay? So it'll be a few weeks before we start putting notes in, and that makes sense. But I wanted to point out that the view scale mainly has to do with annotation, okay? Now, if we were to click on something, which we will in just a little bit tonight, it would tell you the properties of that specific item, whether it's a wall, a door, a window, annotation, anything like that. It'll give you those specific properties, okay? Down here, we have our project map, and this is essentially our legend or map. Did I say project map? I had a little bit of caffeine before class, so I'm like, slow down, Naima. Okay, sorry, this is our project browser. And again, it's like our map. So right now, the level 1 is in bold, and that means that we're looking at floor plan level 1. And we can click around here. We haven't added anything, so there's really not much to see. If we go to our elevations, we can see that we, by default, have level 1 and level 2. But there's no plus signs next to sheets, schedules, legends, anything like that. So there's really not much more to look at, but this is where we would bounce around from view to view. Okay. Now, did you guys notice, at least on my screen, as I bounced around from view to view, Revit opened up the views up here for me, and it keeps them open. It doesn't necessarily close them when I get off of them, so I can easily go back and forth up here too. Why don't you guys try that too? So go ahead and click from level 1 to a couple of your elevations, level 2. Just open up at least 3 or 4 views. And then after you do, meet me back in level 1. Good. I hear lots of clicks, so we should have a lot of those new views open. And the reason why I wanted you guys to open those views is I also want you to know how to close views. So if you're done with level 1, hit the X and it closes it. But there's also this shortcut button right here. So if you take a look at my mouse, I'm kind of dancing right here. There is this button right here, which is close inactive windows. If you click on that, you'll notice right now I have Site, East, and South that are inactive, meaning that I haven't selected them. If I hit that red X, it closes all of the inactive windows. Okay. Does anybody remember from our crash course last time why I said it was important to do that from time to time? Yeah, you might not notice it in lab until your project gets bigger, but if you're working at home on maybe an older laptop or even older computer, you'll notice that your graphic card might start to slow down. Bless you. And so if you find that your graphic card is slowing down, close those views you're not using, and that'll help speed up the process a little bit. At least we hope. Okay, I'm going to take off this necklace because I'm pretty sure your whole lecture is just the jingling of the beads. So I'm going to take those off for now. Note I was fashionable when we started, not anymore. All right, so moving on from there, let's do this. Let's close our project browser, and let's also close our properties menu. And the reason why I want to close them is within these first few weeks, you're going to be clicking around a lot and you're going to accidentally close one of them. And instead of going into complete panic over where they went and how you open them, I'm going to teach you how to do it tonight. Okay? So both your properties menu and your project browser, you can find by coming to your view menu. Do you see the sub menu right here that I'm pointing to? View. On my screen, it's almost the dead center, just a few down from the right side. And if you come all the way over to where it says user interface, you can pull down there and you should see project browser on my screen is unchecked. Okay. And then properties is also unchecked as well. So that should pop both of them back up. Now, whether or not they dock in the right place, that's different. You might have to still place your menus in the right place, but your view user interface will at least pull those back up if you need to. Okay, so I will show you guys the view user interface a couple more times, but as far as explaining properties and project browser, I don't think I'll be going through that again, only because we are going to be using them so much that we are essentially talking about those every class constantly. So if there's something that's specific that comes up with either one of those, just let me know in class, okay? All right, so in our architectural menu, let's go to wall. Let's just click on wall right up here. And the only thing I want to do is note the different wall types. So we've got a few exteriors, brick on CMU, brick on CMU. We've got some generics. And when we scroll down to the interiors, they're all like 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, 2 hour, 2 hour. Just a little side note, when you see a 1 hour or 2 hour wall, that has to do with the commercial fire rating. So if you were building a project and you needed a 2 hour wall, meaning that the wall should stand for 2 hours before it collapses, that's how those walls are rated. Okay. So I hit escape to get out of that menu. And remember, there's no sheets in here either. So it's a pretty blank template. So depending on the project you're starting, the architectural template might be perfect because it's a nice blank slate. But if you wanted a little bit more information, like for example, how many of you guys have taken the commercial or the residential codes class? You have? So the residential template would have been a great template for that class, and I will show you why. So let's keep this one open. So this one for me is called Project 4. Yours is probably Project 1. I opened a few more before class. But to open up another new project, let's all go up to File, New Project. Okay. And then from here, we don't see residential, right? So we want to click on Browse. And if Revit is working correctly and being nice, it should take you to the right menu and you should see residential default here. Does everybody see that okay? Yep. So here's our residential default. Go ahead and open it. And then go ahead and just say okay. And just with the project browser, take a look at it for maybe 10 or 15 seconds and let me know a few differences that you notice already right off the bat. Yeah, so it has a lot more levels. In the other one we had level 1, level 2, and I think a site plan. But we've got first floor, framing, electrical, lots of stuff here. Anything else you guys notice? It has all of your what? Yeah, there's a lot of sheets in here too. So again, these can be helpful if you use them, but you know, it could also be a hindrance too. It just depends on the type of project you're working on. Now, let's go, if you are in your sheets, let's go back to our first floor and let's click on wall again and take a look at these wall types. And you'll notice they're a little bit different than what we started out with in the architectural template. So here, instead of a lot of CMU, you'll see wood shingle on wood stud. They're all basically wood stud. And there's a few more interior walls. However, none of them are rated for more than 1 hour. So they really are set up for a residential application. I don't see any metal studs here. And I'm pretty sure the 2-hour walls were either metal studs or perhaps treated lumber. Okay, so throughout the semester we will be using either one of these templates. I'll let you know when we're using either one. Tonight, with a couple examples that we're doing, why don't we go ahead and do the residential template since we didn't necessarily get to see what the residential template did last time. Okay. All right, so I'm going to escape out of there. I'm going to hang out on the first floor for a minute. And for this next part, unfortunately, I have to do some talking. So most of the time in Revit we'll be drawing and working, but there are some lectures where I do have to do some talking. So last class we did our crash course where we went through and I showed you quickly like the fundamentals of how Revit works and how Revit thinks. And so we're going to start from the very beginning of what those fundamentals are, and we're going to be repeating those fundamentals for a few classes just because they are so important. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is BIM modeling versus other programs. So Emily, have you taken AutoCAD yet? Okay, good. So most of us here have taken AutoCAD. So you'll find that a lot of times in our class I will compare what Revit does to either AutoCAD or hand drafting just to give you guys some comparison. So can you guys, just based off of our crash course, can you tell me a couple main differences between AutoCAD and hand drafting versus BIM modeling, in particular Revit? You guys think of anything? Caitlin? Yeah.
Wall versus Revit automatically knowing everything and all the properties that comes with a wall.
Yeah, exactly. So in hand drafting and even in AutoCAD, everything is just this one-dimensional representation of what a wall would be or whatever that object is. So you're really just sketching on a computer, but it's not really ever that thing. So when you draw a wall, it's just those two lines that represent a wall, but that doesn't manifest anywhere else. It's just in that one dimension. Whereas in BIM modeling, we are digitally creating the physical world. So when we draw a wall, just like the walls in this room, they have physical properties. Some of the physical properties that we have to think about before we start a project is, what is that wall made of? And sometimes, is it okay to not know that answer just yet? It's okay to just put in a generic wall, but if you do know if it's a wood stud wall or a metal stud wall, it's best to have that information up front, okay? So as long as you're thinking about it. So what are the physical and material characteristics of that wall? The other considerations are the levels of that wall, and I always use the rooms that I'm in as an example. So for instance, this north wall right here, even though you and I can only see it from the ceiling to the floor, does that wall end at the floor? No, it goes all the way down, probably past the main floor level, probably goes into a basement level or some sort of a sub-level, and even with the footing and foundation. Whereas these three walls right here, they essentially probably start at the floor plate and then go up to some ceiling plate that we can't see. And I don't even know if they go to the floor above. They could stop short a little bit. This building's a little bit older, so I'd be surprised if it went all the way up to the floor plate above it. And even within this room, when we're talking about physical characteristics, we've got a wall that has, drywall, brick, beautiful wood paneling. We're in the architectural building, of course it has to be fancy. We've got some sort of like acoustic wall over here on the east side. Over here it's mainly drywall with some sort of a channel to hang stuff, and then we've got a brick wall right here with a really big carpet baseboard, very sexy. So there's a lot of different physical characteristics. So when we start a Revit project, there's a few things I want you guys to think about, and you can think about them in different orders. It's not like think about this first and then this one, but as long as you give consideration to all of those things, you'll be okay. So levels and physical characteristics of your walls are two really important things. So I'm going to start writing those up here again. I wish we had a digital board so I can make my notes and save them to the next week. So here's our considerations. Okay, so the first consideration that I would say are, what are the wall properties? And that includes the physical construction, and also the levels. Okay. The other thing that we may or may not talk about this summer, just because it's a condensed semester, is what type of construction is it? Is it all new construction? Is it a remodel? So that might have to do with it too. So I'm going to write construction type. Okay. And then with some of these answers, even with the construction type, you can also think about the project type too. So what template should I use? The architectural template, the residential template? That will also kind of feed into that as well. I don't know where all of our markers went. I might have to grab one from next door. So those are a few things that I want you guys to think about when we first start a project. And then once we've given some consideration to that, before we start drawing our walls, which is typically where we start, there's a couple other things that I want you guys to think about too that we went over last week as well. So for today's class, we might do things a little bit differently. So last crash course that we had, what I had you guys do is draw like that quintessential kid sketch of a house. But for tonight, why don't we actually sketch the room that we're in tonight? And I'm going to give you guys really generic dimensions of what the room could look like. And we are going to pretend that this room is essentially flat on the ground and it's the only level to get us started. But eventually what we'll do is we will add maybe another level above us. Okay, so we'll pretend that we're the main level and there is one level above us, so we can play with the levels a little bit. But what we will do is, rather than looking at the whole building, we're going to pretend like this is the whole thing, and we might bisect the space to play with the walls a little bit. So with that, because north should be up on our plans, I'm going to draw that wall first. And again, I'm going to leave off some of the detail just so we can get through this a little bit faster. But that wall comes in a little bit like this, and it's mirrored over there. It goes something like this. I'm going to let you guys fill in some of these details. But let's say that our overall room length, I'm going to make this about 35. I'm going to make this 28 right here. And we'll say that this is about a 1 foot pop-in right there. Okay? And then as far as the doors go, we will put a 3 foot door here. And then we're going to ignore the window for now. We'll just put the door. So Felicia, from where you're standing, does that door look like it's in the center?
No, it's a little to the left.
Left would be that way. Okay, so not quite center. So I'm going to say we're going to put it, it's a 3 foot door, and we're going to put it 2 feet of center. How's that? Maybe we'll do a dimension a little bit later. We're going to do 2 feet of center. And then there's really nothing else to put in except for the windows. So we'll make a 2.5 foot window here, a 2.5 foot window there, another, this is way off, it's more like this. Remember people, master's degree at work right here. So 2.5 here, and then at least a 5 right there. That's a little bit bigger, but like I said, we're just kind of winging it right now. So we have a basic plan, and with our basic plan, one thing to think about is, where is this information coming from? So right now, you have a sketch of a building, and it could be a brand new building that you and I are designing together. So maybe this building doesn't exist and we just sketched it out, and we will make it exist. The other thing that could be happening is there might be a remodel of this space. So you and I came, we measured out the space. We need to get this into Revit, get it modeled up so that we can actually start our remodel. And then if you're ever so lucky, you might be working with a client who already has it in Revit, and you just open it and start working. So that last option, it's not happening for us tonight. So it's one of the other two, okay? So before we start drawing our walls, let's think about the questions. So wall properties in this room. Let's talk about that for just one moment. How many different wall types are we going to have in this space? If we're just talking generic. Yeah, so if we were going to be really detailed, we would have, the exterior brick wall, and then we would have an interior brick wall, and then we would do kind of like a generic interior wall here, okay? Now for our little example, what I'd like to do is to pretend that the perimeter of this entire room is an exterior brick wall, and then we'll still make an interior wall, because what I'd like you guys to imagine is that we are going to subdivide the space. So we're going to make 2 classrooms out of this whole thing. Actually, we're going to make 1 classroom on that side and then 2 kind of office suites over here. So we're going to do 1 big space over there and then 2 office suites. So with that, let's go with 2 wall types. So one of them will be the brick exterior, because we are detaching from the actual reality we're in, and then 1 kind of interior partition. Okay, so those are our wall types. What about the levels? So remember, we're a little bit detached from reality. What level are we on for this project? We're not on the 3rd floor anymore. What's our level here? Level 1, yep. So this is our main floor. And remember I said that we're going to have one more floor above us too, okay? So with that in mind, let's do, so we've got at 0, this is our main floor, and then let's say that our ceilings are 9 feet, okay? So I've got a 9-foot ceiling, but because we're a school, I have 2 feet of space between my ceiling and the next floor. Are you guys following along with that? Okay. So my 2nd floor is actually at 11 feet. And then, is that it? Do I have anything else? I have my 2nd floor. What else is above this? Yep, so we've got another ceiling, so I'm going to do another 9-foot ceiling. Okay, and then we're going to do another 2 feet here. Sorry, that's not 9 feet. This would be, what would it be? Not 9, but, yep, 20 feet. So my roof wouldn't be until 22 feet. Got it? So, 2nd, I'm going to write 2nd ceiling, and then this is roof, right? So those are the levels that we're going to be starting with. So let's do this. Right now, we're only looking at the 1st floor plan. But what I would like to do is I want to make sure that when you guys start working in Revit, that we start getting into new habits. Most of us, when we work in plans, we are just looking at them from the orthographic 1st floor perspective, where we're looking, up from a hovercraft and down. But in Revit, we are starting to build 3D space. So remember, it's not just these 2 lines in a one-dimensional world anymore. But when we're drawing, we are not only drawing it in plan, but simultaneously it's drawing it in elevation, 3D perspectives. And so let's set up our views to show us those same things. So let's keep our 1st floor open, okay? And then in our elevations, let's go ahead and open up our north elevation. So 1st floor north, okay? And then do you guys remember how to open up a 3D view from our crash course? Yeah, so this little house right here is a default 3D view right here. And I'm going to show you one other way of getting there. If you go to the view menu, there's a bigger button. Okay. I don't think it'll ever leave here. It should always be there, but there's your 3D view right here too. Okay, so those are the 3 views I want you guys to have open. Now, over on this side, I'm going to start making kind of a running list of shortcut commands. Do you guys remember how to get those so that they're all tiled on your screen, what the shortcut was? Yeah, WT. So WT stands for window tile. In Revit, do you need to hit enter after a command? No. If you do, does it help you? It does not help you, it hinders you. So what you want to do right now is just type in WT. As soon as you get 2 2 characters into the computer, it knows that you're putting in a command and it won't be looking for the enter key. Now, right now, the north view is in my large window, but I want my 1st floor to be here. So to toggle that, I'm going to keep clicking in this view and typing in WT. I click in it again, WT, until finally the 1st floor is within view. And does anybody need me to review the mouse zooming commands, like zooming in and out with your roller ball or panning? Are you guys pretty comfortable with that? Emily, you've taken CAD, so I think you're okay. Felicia, you're good? Okay. All right. In case something is difficult, let me know. The only thing that I want you guys to remember is, we didn't talk about this last week, but if you ever get lost, if you double click on your roller ball, it does a zoom all. So for example, in my 1st floor, if I end up over here, double clicking on your roller ball does a zoom all for you. Okay, that's kind of a nice shortcut. And that also works in CAD too, if you're ever working in CAD and want to do a zoom all. So now we can really see what's going on here. Okay, so here's my first floor. Am I ready to start drawing? Let's take a look at my list. I did the wall properties. I thought about the physical construction. I drew the levels on the board. Am I ready? Not quite, right? I need to actually put the levels into Revit. So I'm going to switch this one more time until my levels are in my large window. That'll make it easier for all of us to see. And right now, because we're on the residential template, it has given me a lot of extra floors and levels that we typically don't get with the architectural template. Typically, it's just 0 and level 2, I think is what it was. So here's what's interesting. In BIM modeling, everything's connected. So when we see that there's an elevation for a basement level, do you see in my 3D view it's actually highlighting the whole level? Okay. And now if I hit delete, it's giving me a warning that all of these other views will be deleted. So take a look right here. My basement is here, but when I delete it from here and say OK, it's also gone from this list. So everything's connected. This is more than just an annotation. We're not going to do footings yet, so I'm going to delete this too. All of my footings are gone. I'm going to get rid of the foundation as well. Okay, so I've just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. So now I've got my first floor, second floor, and roof. So what should our second floor be at? It isn't 9 feet, right? What should it be at? Good. So I'm just going to click into where it says 9, type in 11, enter, because Revit by default thinks in feet, not inches. So whenever you type in a number, it thinks of it in feet. And then our roof is at 22 feet. And we're not putting in the ceilings yet. We're just doing the levels. Great, I don't hear any clicking. Everybody got that okay? Yeah? All right, good. So now let's go ahead and toggle through and let's get back to our floor plan in our main view. Okay. So to draw a wall, our shortcut is WA. It's kind of a terrible sound. And over here, I'm going to write wall, and then a few other things you should think about before you start drawing your wall, okay? Because by default, it happens all the time. Last semester, the guy who sat there, that side comes off too. Just fair warning. You may as well not even put it back on. So with your walls, let's go ahead and just type in WA. And I'm just going to point out what Revit does by default, and then we'll go through how we should change those things. So I'm going to type in WA. And if you guys don't mind, for the next little bit, just take a look at my screen so you guys don't have to undo everything. By default, our wall properties, or the wall that we're about to draw, is the basic wall, generic 6 inches. Okay. I have other choices here that I can select from, and then I'll be drawing that wall. But again, it starts out at the generic 6 inches. And if you look here, this is kind of like your sub property menu. It is telling you how it's going to draw that wall. So right now, it's drawing the wall unconnected, which means that you are just going to give it a height and it doesn't connect to a level. It's drawing it at 20 feet high, and it's drawing it from the wall center line, okay? Now basically we don't want any of these things. We need to update all of these things. I'm going to explain each one. So we know that our wall, if we are doing the exterior, what level does it go up to? It goes all the way up to the roof, right? If we're drawing our brick wall, it goes up to the roof. So now it grays this out because Revit knows, okay, just take it up to the roof, whatever the roof is. The roof is calling the shots now. Wall center line, we haven't talked about this yet this evening, but take a look at how I drew my plan. When I put in the dimensions, did I do it to the center of the walls? Or what did I do it? Yeah, finished face interior. So I gave my dimensions based on the finished faces of the interior, okay? So I'm going to change that as well. And then last but not least, I'm going to change my wall type because we don't need to use a generic wall in this case. I know that we want a brick on wood stud exterior wall, just based on what we talked about. Okay. And now the best thing is I'm going to zoom out of this view and then come over to this view. When I start drawing, you'll see that in BIM modeling, okay, it really does start to represent itself in all of those views at once. So when I drew my walls, I also got elevations from those walls and I got a 3D view. Okay, I'm going to undo that. Goodbye, masterpiece. Okay, this is something that's new in 2020. Before, if you hit Control Z, it would undo all of the walls that you clicked in with that last command. Now it's just one segment at a time. Okay, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's just new. Is everybody ready to draw on their first floor? Okay, I'll kind of walk along with you guys, like what the dimensions are. We'll try our best with these. And actually, let me do this. It will be less awkward if I draw it first and I put the dimensions down here for you. So I'm gonna come, I said 28 feet down, and then I'm gonna go 35 feet across. So if you're seeing this for the first time, and all of you guys basically are, because there's only one class, can you guys see that I have that blue dashed line and my wall is being drawn to the interior face of it? So if I hit spacebar, I can flip it back and forth because it doesn't necessarily know where the interior face is. But I'm gonna draw that for now, and this is the part where I cheat and I go ahead a little bit because I'm just trying to find the center so I can give you guys some dimensions. So give me one sec. I'm actually gonna finish this. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the wrong screen. Sorry, guys. There you go. I'm just making sure my brick is on the outside. And I'll explain how to change that here in just a second, too. I'm just going to make sure our windows fit. So I want east. I think I said this is 1 foot. That wall is flipped the wrong way, so I need to flip it. This one is 2. This one is 2. Oh my gosh, I drew all of them backwards. And then let me clean up this side real quick and I'll put in the dimensions for all of you. Okay. Does it come in? Oh, it does. Okay. The exterior brick on wood stud. And before you start drawing, let's change one thing on our screen. So by default, your screen is set to be coarse. So do you see right here, there's basically a square right next to the scale. and mine right now is set to coarse. When you have it set to coarse, you can't really see the detail of the wall, but when you move it to medium, sorry, it was making me save. When you move it to medium, do you see that you can start to see more detail? This is important so you know what side of the wall the brick is going on. Okay, and as you're drawing, if you see that it's drawing it on the wrong side, you can use your space bar to flip it back and forth. Okay? So again, I'm going to give you guys just some time to kind of click and drag and get this drawn up. And then once we get this part drawn, don't forget the few things you do before you start drawing. So make sure that you're going up to the roof, it's finish face interior, and that you have your right wall type. And you should be able to see it start drawing automatically in your two other views. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a chance to get started. I'm going to go grab some more water and I will be right back and start walking around to come help if you have questions. And take a peek up here again. What I'm going to do is show you guys how to put in the dimensions. And then after we put in the dimensions, I can show you how you can use dimensions to move stuff around. So the shortcut for dimension is DI. And before you start, again, look at your kind of sub-menu up here. And I think the default for dimensions is also wall center lines. So for our example, let's change it to wall faces. Okay. So I'm going to add DI to our running list of shortcuts. And first, I'm going to show you how to just put in one dimension versus an entire string. Okay? So to put in one dimension, first let's go from this face to this face. And do you guys see that you should get that 35-foot dimension? Emily? Yeah, DI. Yep. So from here to here. And then what Revit is waiting for, it wants you to click on another wall or object. But if you click in the middle of nowhere, and so when you click in the middle of nowhere, that's where it will place it as well. Okay, so that'll be like its resting spot. So try to put in your 35-foot dimension, and then after that, go ahead and put in your 28-foot dimension. So remember, just click in the middle of nowhere, make sure it's where it's aligned to where you want it to be. When you click next, it's where it'll place it. And if you look at your cursor, it should look like mine. Do you see that I'm still in dimension mode? It has my arrow with the dimension attached to it. That means that even though I finished that dimension, it's still waiting for me to put in dimensions. Are you guys ready for me to show you how to dimension all of these walls up here? Yeah? Okay, so for these walls, I start at the face, and then I grab this face right here, and then I click on the next face, and the next face. I'm just pulling down so you can see that it's grabbing those dimensions. The next face here, and then this face. And then just like before, if I click on essentially nothing, but move my dimension string where I want it, my next click is where it will be placed. Does anybody want to see that one more time, or you guys got it? I don't see any furrowed brows. I think you guys got it. Let me ask you one other thing. How do I get out of the dimension command? Yep. And then, am I out of it yet? Yep, one more time. Yep. I think that's new in 2020. Before it was one escape and now it's two. I have to figure out what the first one does versus the second one. Okay, give me some feedback. Will you guys raise your hand if you still need some time to draw the outline of the room and put in the dimensions? Okay, what I'm going to do is I will pause the lecture then. You guys might have to get used to Revit in this way, because when you're working in AutoCAD or even hand sketching, you're used to drawing it perfectly the first time, right? Like typically in CAD, it's like you click and you tell it to go 10 feet, and then you go up and you go 2 feet. And it's always perfect because you're just drawing a line. But now you're drawing a wall with dimensions. So sometimes when you go to do a corner, if your wall isn't turning the way you want it to turn, it might not be that exact dimension. So it isn't uncommon to kind of sketch it out roughly. Like, did you guys see when I was putting it in? I wasn't even close to putting it in exactly the way you guys are because I wasn't sure what it was. So in fact, it's really common for me and for most people who start a Revit project to come in and essentially sketch the shape of the room like this. So I am literally just eyeballing it. I know that I am not even close, but I will say that the room, I will at least draw it straight. The room is something like this, okay? And see how I didn't finish this right here? These are all commands that I will repeat, but if you know and like the fillet command in CAD, the equivalent to that in Revit is TR, and that always fixes your corners. So TR, touch what you want to keep, and it brings them together. So I use TR all the time. We will have another class where we will go through all of those, but as I do them in class, I'll at least kind of let you know, like, that was the TR command. I'm not going to pretend I don't know things because you guys don't know them yet. Okay, so I would sketch it out like this, and what I would do is I'd throw down my dimensions like this. And so right now, you guys have something similar to this, probably more similar to this, but just slightly off. But what we're going to do now is use our dimensions to move our walls. Okay, so take a look at my screen. Let's say you have it like this, where you kind of got the dimensions perfect and you got the walls perfect. But you found out later on from a client or from a colleague that when you guys measured and you put in 35 feet, they actually had bad, or like 28 feet, they actually had bad handwriting and it was supposed to be 30 feet. Whatever happened, it was a little bit off, okay? So in order to move the wall, instead of clicking on it and doing the move command and moving it 2 feet, what you can do is click on the wall, and you see that when I did, it activated the dimension. So let me click off of it again. I click on the wall. Do you see how now the dimension is active and ready to like change? Now, if I highlight in here and type in 30 feet, it moves the wall and in essence the dimension, so now that reads 30 feet. Let me tell you what you're going to try to do 10 times and it will not work. The next wall you want to move, let's say this is 36 feet, don't click on the dimension and try to change the dimension. Click on what you're moving and then change the dimension. So for example, if you were in the space, what would you push or what would you want to move? That's what you need to click on. This number here, this dimension doesn't move anything, but that physical structure is what moves something. Does that make sense? Okay. So now I'm going to do a really big example of this. Let me just memorize this. So we've got 30 by 35, 5, 8, 9. Okay. So here, this is not 72. What should I grab if I want to make this 35? Do I click the number? The wall. Good, because I want to grab the structure. 35, enter. And then here, this definitely isn't 24 feet. This was 5 feet, right? Is that the 5? Okay. This is not 47 feet right here. What should this be? 8? Okay. There's 8 feet. I am way off. This is definitely not 90. Again, think about the structure. I want to move this so that this is 8 feet. Nope, not 8 feet. What was that second one? Is it 9? Okay. Right. And then this one right here is 8, right? Least accurate architect ever. Okay. And then I've also got, this is not 35 feet, this is 25 feet. And I'm missing a dimension here, but it's easy to add. This is only 1 foot, right? 1, enter. Now let me show you my little shortcut that I like so much. So I'm skipping ahead a little bit. We haven't had that class yet, but I like to share these when we come across them. So do this for me. Take one of your walls, click on it, and just mess it up. Pull it up a little bit. Be brave. Just pull it up where it's not supposed to be. Got it like that? Okay. Now that you have a wall that's a little bit out of place, try the align command with me. So with the align command and several other commands, here's how I want you to think about them. Everybody in this room has painted before, right? So in this case, our mouse is the paintbrush. We always dip in the color first, or where we want to go first, and then we put our paintbrush on our mouse on the second object. Does that make sense? So there will be lots of commands: align, create similar, match properties. Those are coming. Think of it as a paintbrush. Dip it in the paint first. So in this case, I'm going to do AL for align, and I want my wall to align right here. Okay? So right now, see how it isn't selecting like the outside faces that we're used to? We can do the center face, or over here, we can change it to wall faces. And it's still ignoring me. See how it's not being nice? Okay. Let's do it a couple times. First, let's align center of here to center of here. Okay. So what was that shortcut? AL. I'm not going to write it on the board because that was kind of an unofficial one. It'll come up later. The things that I write on the board are things that will come up on your questions for the week. So those are things that I definitely want you to know. Okay, let's try it one more time. So did it work first of all? Okay, now do Control Z, and I'm going to show you one other way of doing it as well. So let's type in AL, and see how mine is set to wall faces. Change yours to wall faces too. But here's what you can also do. If you ever find that it doesn't get the right face, hit the tab button, and you should see that it kind of shuffles through the different areas that you can select on that wall. And eventually it'll get the wall face. Okay? So tab toggles through. So once you get the top, then you can select the top of that wall, and they should be aligned. Did the tab work for you guys? Yeah? Okay. So now that you guys know how to use dimensions to adjust your walls and floor plans, I'm going to give you guys some more time to go through and add dimensions where you need dimensions to go, and make adjustments where you need to make adjustments, so that our plans look the same. Okay? Recording. Okay, let me come back over here. So let's admire the handiwork of this plan. But in your 3D view, there's a couple ways you can move around. You can hold your shift key down and kind of rotate around. It's just like panning. I'm holding my roller ball down. Or you can use this view square, or this view cube right here. And you can kind of click all of the predetermined views as well. However you feel comfortable, you can kind of scroll around. Okay. And you'll see that it also created the exterior elevations for us. So because we're looking at the north, what we're looking at are these protrusions right here. Any Game of Thrones fans in here? Every time I say the north, I'm like, I feel like Jon Snow. Okay. All right. Let's go backwards a little bit and talk about troubleshooting. Okay. We talked about all of these first things that we think about. When you first start working in Revit to 5 years down the road, you're human, you're going to make mistakes, and I do them too. And the thing that's really nice about Revit is you can always redeem yourself at any point with any one of these things. So let's talk about changing some of these things. The first part is, let's say, this is kind of also showing off the cool stuff it can do. So I'm going to do WT until I get my elevation here. You guys don't need to update it. I just want it big so you guys can see it, and so it's a little bit bigger on the recording when you guys are watching this later, if you're watching it later. But right now, since we're connected to the roof and we're at 22 feet, let's say that we find out that because the second floor is next to the roof, there's extra ductwork for the return air. So instead of having 2 feet between the floors, like I've drawn right here, it's actually 4 feet. So instead of the roof being at 22 feet, it's at 24. And if we have set this model up correctly, did you see that all of my walls automatically went up to the roof level? Now, again, because we're human, you might have started the project and completely forgotten to connect your walls to a level, okay? So let's talk about how you can edit your walls after you've already drawn them. One of the things that I really want you guys to get used to, I kind of call it like the cheer of our class, so don't forget this part. To select more than one wall, it's hover, one tab, so don't hold it down, just one quick tab, and then click. And what that does is it selects all of the walls that you drew within that chain. So again, hover, I'm not clicking, I'm just hovering, tab, and then click to grab all of our walls. So I'm going to be really quiet. Everybody hit escape. I want to hear you guys hover. Okay, tab, and now click. That sounded good because I heard, I didn't hear anything when I said hover. I heard really quick tabs and really quick clicks. And the reason why I wanted you guys to select all of those walls is that once we have all of these selected, we can go to our properties. So for example, we can go through and we can change it to like wood shingle on wood stud. Very interesting building, okay? Maybe we accidentally drew it finish face exterior when it should have been interior. Do you see that you can change all of these things too? Okay. And then the last thing is the top constraint. So if you ever see that this is unconnected, you can actually go back and change it to whatever the corresponding level should be. Okay. Those are those 3 things that we talked about. What's the wall construction? Where's the location line? And what is its elevation? Or in Revit terms, as we're looking at it in the properties, what's the top constraint? Do you guys see all of those things in the properties again? Okay, so really you can easily redeem your project at any point if you forget any of these things without a lot of headache, I think. Now, the one caveat with the hover tab click is for hover tab click to work, you would have had to draw them all in one WA command. If you stopped and then started again, you would probably have to come and hold, I think, Control, and that's the plus sign to add them again. So unlike CAD, when in CAD you can keep clicking on things and adding them, in Revit you actually have to hold Control down to select it. Or if you accidentally get something you didn't want, hold Shift to deselect. Jules?
Can you join our group walls so that they become just one wall? Or like one object?
You can, but I wouldn't do it. There's a different way that we can look at it, and we'll look at that a little bit later in the semester. I'm kind of like that mean mom. It's like, not until you're older. Not until you're older. There's going to be a lot of those answers, unfortunately, in this class. But it all kind of builds on each other. So eventually you'll see it. Okay, good. So let me get my first floor back in here. And let me do a quick consensus. So Emily, I'm sorry, it's kind of cheating with you because you weren't here for the crash course. But for everybody who's seeing this the second time, does it feel a little less foreign the second time? A little bit more straightforward? Yeah? Okay, Ashley's like, no, not yet. Emily, what are your first impressions?
I guess I've heard this a lot where it's like Revit has a lot of good things that CAD doesn't, and CAD has a lot of good things that Revit doesn't, so it's kind of like a
Sure.
sweep for things. So like it seems simple in the sense of like, at least to me, to like build that foundation, maybe, well, kind of, but then putting in like the dimensions and things a little bit different.
Yeah, that part is, so you don't necessarily get to sketch like a designer typically would, but there's a lot of other things that you can let go of and not really have to think about, and be more of a designer, I think, in this
Also,
sense.
I like that you can do like the elevations and the 3D like all
Mm-hmm.
at the same time.
Yeah,
So nice.
I think it's helpful to visualize. Brooke, what were you going to add?
So I haven't done CAD in like a year and a half, but this seems way easier. So I'm curious, like, why do people use CAD still?
I mean, it has been the industry standard for like 30 years. And so it's interesting that you ask that because we just had 3 of our students hired at an engineering firm. And one of them didn't take the CAD class because it isn't required anymore. And the engineering firm's like, oh, that's so tragic. And I'm like, but you don't understand. It's really being phased out. Like most firms are like, send us your Revit people so they can teach us Revit. But I mean, BIM modeling has been around for a while. The first project I worked on, it's my Canadian coming out. I'm not Canadian, but my best friend is, was about 15 years ago. But if you think about, that's a long time until now where everybody's like, oh, we're doing Revit. But think about how expensive it is for firms to switch over because their entire infrastructure is in this thing called AutoCAD, all of their standards, all of their libraries. It means new computers, new software costs. And so even though it is that much better, if you have a staff of 110 people trained in AutoCAD, it's going to take a couple generations before you start getting Revit people in there. And so now we're finally to the point where it's like people have to know Revit and they should know AutoCAD. You know, it's really close to have to know both of them. Unfortunately, it's like a dual language type situation. I wouldn't say that Revit is easy. I love that you're calling it easy on the second class. Yes, okay, it makes my heart happy. The way that I explain it to people is that it's more intuitive as a designer. I think it's more intuitive to use. It doesn't really save you any time just because you're not sketching quickly anymore, but you have to think about the whole darn building now. Like before, you could just put in 2 lines and your wall's done. Now you're like, what floor does this go up to? What's the construction? And so although it's more intuitive, it's a lot more user-friendly. Time-wise, it almost ends up being the same. Only because people, because they can get more detailed, because they will. So I think that's another good thing about it too.
So if like we were to take, so CAD's not required anymore? I actually didn't realize that.
Okay, so CAD is required. In the architecture department, it isn't. But in our program, it is. However, it's not a prerequisite to take this class anymore, is what I should have said. Yeah, it's not a prereq anymore.
Okay, that's all. I mean, I have other more questions, but we don't.
You can ask. I don't know.
Okay, so if we were to take, there's an advanced class for both, would you recommend doing Revit?
Are you in the architecture or interior design program?
Interior design.
I don't think we have an advanced AutoCAD class anymore.
Oh, okay.
That was the first thing I asked as soon as I could. I was like, get rid of it.
Okay.
And we turned that into advanced Revit. And in this class, you'll get to see what the advanced Revit class is like. It's not advanced in the sense that it's harder. We really should call it rendering for Revit. We really just, it's a rendering class. And last week you guys saw I got mad about it. I hate teaching all this stuff and then not the fun stuff, so I always cheat and I show you guys some of the fun stuff. And I just see it as like kind of whetting your palate to see what that class offers, so that if you are inspired, take it. If you don't have the time to fit it in your schedule, you guys, I know, will take the initiative and find out what else you guys can do, because there's not that much more. It's just a matter of taking a class and spending the time doing it.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so we're off to a good start, I would say. And so far we've only covered walls. We still have plenty of time, whether you guys like it or not. Are you guys okay if we keep plowing on, or do you need to take a break? We're good? I can go on all night, so if you guys need a break, let me know. What I'd like to do now is put in the windows. And what I'd like to do is, actually no, before we do the windows, I'm going to put in the doors. And if you guys don't mind, save your phones for the break time. I know it's super tempting. They're always there. I have my family outside of class, so I too will glance down at my phone or my watch. I just need to make sure everything's okay. And as soon as I see, okay, not an emergency, I move on. But if I see like lots of glancing and strolling, it's only the second class. Even if you get it, I just want to make sure you guys are here with me. And if there's anything that exciting happening on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, let me know and we'll all look at the same time. Okay, there's lots of stuff happening lately. But let's put in our doors first. And so we're going to put in that door in the corner as well as this one right here. So when we put in our door, right next to wall, we have door. And the shortcut for that is DR. So I will put that up on our wall of shortcuts. I am a fan of keyboard shortcuts. I will use them whenever I can. It's not required in this class, but again, I do like to use them whenever I can. And with doors, you guys will notice that doors, windows, and furniture all get loaded and behave the same way. So by teaching you how to load a door, without you guys knowing it really, I'm also teaching you how to put in windows and then other furniture components. So let's start with doors. And if you were here last class, you guys will remember that when we went to doors, there was only one door in our crash course, right? It's the single flush. We have a couple more now, right? We have a sliding closet, we have a raised panel with side lights, and a double glass. So a door, a window, furniture, all of these are called different components that come from different families, okay? So if you still don't see the door that you want, you can click on this Load Family button right here, okay? And you should see a whole browser full of different folders that you can look through. In this case, we're looking for doors. You can see all of these different doors that you can load into your project, including commercial and residential doors. So if you don't find what you're looking for, go ahead and look through here and maybe just for practice sake, load at least one or two more doors. If you guys don't mind looking at my screen again for a moment, when you select your door, before it comes into your project, it's going to ask you, okay, what size or sizes do you want to put in? Now, you're more than welcome to load all of the sizes, but just know that every single one of those will now kind of physically exist in your plan, so it'll make your file a little bit bigger. So if you're concerned about, file size, drive size, maybe just grab the sizes that you want. A standard residential door is 6'8". I will say that probably in this classroom we'll do 7 feet. So let's do an 80-inch door, and let's do whatever we put in. Let's make it 36 by 80. So it's kind of a commercial size. And just so another review from last week, if you have more than one door size, let's see, I don't know exactly what 30, like I know that it's 36 inches wide, but I don't know how tall. If you hold the control button down, it will let you select multiple door sizes. Okay, so control lets you click on them individually. And then you should see them loaded up in here. And again, if you guys want to peek at my screen, you can just go ahead and place them in. And I'm going to put this one in here too. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to put in those doors, and then I'm going to help you place them exactly using dimensions, okay? I'm going to go ahead and start recording again. Now, I try to do my demos really quick so that you guys don't scurry on too quickly. But what I'm going to do right now is show you again how we can use dimensioning to accurately place our items. Again, similar to the walls that I did the first time, I just kind of eyeballed where the doors are going, and now I'm going to use dimensioning to help me get them in place. For example, this door right here, when I click on it, do you guys notice that these temporary dimensions pop up? So I've got 3, 7, and then I've got 27, 4 1/8, right? Because I just eyeballed it. So these are giving me the dimensions to the center of the door. Now in this case, these temporary dimensions don't help me because the information I know is that my door is actually 6 inches away from, there's like this dimension right here is 6 inches. Now I'm going to change something real quick. Do you see that right now I see like essentially the line thicknesses? Okay, my eyes have a really hard time with that, especially since I'm not wearing contacts. If you type in the shortcut TL, it changes it from thin line to thick line. And this is really a user preference. Whatever is easier for your eyes to see, go for that. This is giving you a print preview of what it's actually going to print out at. But again, I have a hard time seeing that. So I'm going to change it to the thin line. But what I'm going to do now is put in another dimension. And see how I have, now I've created this, 7 foot whatever dimension. If I want to move the door, can one of you guys walk me through what you guys would do now that you have a dimension? Close, not select the wall, but what would I select? What am I trying to move physically? Yeah. Yep, so in this case, we would select the door. And do you see how it still activates? Now I can change this dimension. It's 6 inches. So a couple ways I can do 0 for 0 feet, space 6 for 6 inches. So the 0 lets you know it's 0 feet, and then space, whatever comes next, is inches. Or you can do 0.5 for half a foot. Either one of those. I like the 0 space and then whatever inches. And then it automatically moves the door for me. And truly, I can delete this after I move it. Okay, so I'll do that one more time if you guys want to follow along with me. But the first command that I use is DI to dimension between the wall and the door frame. So DI, and I grab the wall and then the door frame, and I go ahead and place that dimension. I hit escape a couple times to clear out of that. And then once I do that, I click on my door and it should activate this dimension. And again, it's 0 space 6, enter. Everybody got that okay? Yeah? All right, so now let's do our next wall. If this room is 35 feet, I'm gonna say, let me make a guess here. I'm gonna pretend that we know exactly what this is. Let's say that this door is 19 feet over from where this door is, okay? So I'm gonna delete this right here. The first thing I'm gonna do is click on the door to see if the temporary dimensions help me. So right now it doesn't, only because it's giving it to me from the center of the wall to the center of the door. But let me show you a little shortcut you can do that might help you. If you click on these blue dots, do you see that when I hover over it, it says move witness line? What that does is it's going to move the witness line from the middle to the end to the other edge. And I can also do that to my door. Do you see how it moved both of those? Okay. I'm going to do a Control Z. I'm going to do that one more time. Now it might be mad at me because I edited it once. There we go. Now it's back. Well, almost. I'll just move them back to where they were. Okay, so by default, when I click on my door, my temporary dimensions aren't exactly where I want them to be. So it's up to you guys to decide what's more convenient for you. Do you want to move the witness lines so that you can manually move them and then tell them that this door is 19 feet over and then they disappear? Or do you want to just draw a dimension like this and then tell it to come 19 feet over manually? Do you guys see the difference between the two? So that's really an individual preference. And to tell you guys the honest truth, depending on the project, I'm probably using both of them. Okay, I kind of go back and forth between each one of them. So another thing that you guys can do is if you ever like click on a wall and the temporary dimension comes up and you want to keep it, you can always hit this dimension symbol, and you can read right there on my screen, make this temporary dimension permanent, and it keeps it on your screen. Okay, we'll work with those a little bit more next class, but I just kind of wanted to introduce the concept to you guys. Okay, now that we've got our doors in, I know that last class with our crash course, we kind of went over this together, but what I'd like you guys to do on your own now, I'm going to turn you guys loose, and I'd like you guys to put in the windows that we've specified here. So all of them are essentially going to be 2 feet 6 minus the 1 5-foot window. Okay, I'm going to pause the lecture at this point. I'm going to let you guys figure it out here, figure out how to load it, placement, all of that stuff. Okay, so let me go to window. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to grab, so I need a 30-inch window. So here's this, is that right? Yeah, 30 inch, so 30 by 46. I'm just gonna get the right size in here for now. Okay, there's one here. I'm gonna just put one here and then one more there. Let me flip this one. Did everybody at least get about that far placing your 2 6 windows? Not quite? Which part can I help you with?
So, when I'm trying to put the windows on, it shows just like a stop sign sort of.
Okay. So it doesn't want you to put in windows. So look up here and make sure you're not in edit mode at all. Is there anything light green up here?
Yeah.
Okay. So click on whatever's light green, and somewhere in the middle, do you see an X or something? Or what? You're probably still in the middle of something. Can you tell what you're in the middle of?
It was the window. When I put it, like when I go to architecture,
Uh-huh.
I go to the window tab,
Yep.
and that's what puts it in green.
Okay, so, okay, so once you have your windows loaded, so let me kind of follow where you are. I'm going to grab a window. So now we're in modify place window, right? Anywhere on your plan it's giving you the don't put it in symbol?
Oh, okay. Oh, now it's doing it.
Okay, good. Okay, so once you get those in, one thing that I wanted to do is hopefully show you guys how to center a window. Now, depending on the window that you guys clicked, when you guys select your window, are you guys getting any temporary dimensions by chance? I'm not on the one that I put in. Raquel, you are?
Oh, when I put it in, as I was moving it, it gave me dimensions.
Okay.
So I was able to center it.
Got it. So with mine, once I put it in, they're gone. Unfortunately, thank you, 2020. So what I'm going to do, I have to kind of rig it, and I'm putting in my dimensions. And then after I do you guys see this EQ symbol that popped up? If I click on that, it should make it equal. So now it's centered on the outside. Not on the inside, but on the outside face. Let me do that one more time. So over on this one, again, I'm going to do DI. I select this wall face here. I find the center of the window, okay, and then this outside wall. So I'm going to hang out here for just a minute. Do you guys see what 3 faces I got? I place those, and while they're still selected, I can click on equal, and it automatically moves that window for me too. Jules?
I know there was I wasn't sure if I was doing this right, but when you click on the window, up next to modify both properties, there's an activate dimensions button.
Oh, yay. Okay, good.
Kind of the same thing without having to draw the dimensions.
Yes.
You still have to
That's what I want. Yeah. So in the past, the temporary dimensions just popped up automatically. So so let me go back. So what Jules was saying is when I click on a window, now there's this fancy little button called Activate Dimensions, and it will pull up those temporary dimensions similar to what we saw with the door earlier. Do you guys remember that from like 15 minutes ago? So now that these are on, I still have to go through and edit my witness lines, right? So that they're center and center. And then these are already equal, so I don't need to change anything. Okay? I'm so glad you noticed that. Okay, and then this one right here, let me cheat. I'm going to see how much space I have left on the outside. So here, let's just put in like a 3-foot window right there. Okay, originally I said 5 feet, but with the thickness of the walls on the exterior, that won't work. So go ahead and just find a similar 3-foot window. And in fact, just hang out for a minute, if that's okay. Don't put in this window yet. Let's do this. Let's just make a copy of the windows that are already there and actually just put in the same size. Eventually we'll change it. We're gonna save this file, and then if we feel brave, we'll do something maybe a little bit more advanced, but for tonight, this should be perfect. Go ahead.
So for the windows, like the drawing of it, which way is that supposed to face?
So it really depends on where you want your sill. And here, so I guess in this room, if you take a look at our window, the sills are actually on the exterior side. Do you see how the windows are closest to us?
The larger, just open area of the windowsill.
Yep, and I am used to the sill being on the interior face of the building. But each one of these windows are a little bit different depending on the ones that you select. Some of them are dead center. This one is like either flush to the outside or inside. So you really get to decide where it goes.
There's not like a requirement
No,
necessarily.
every detail is going to be a little bit different. Here's one other thing that you guys can do. So similar to the align command, this is kind of a bonus command that I love and I use all the time. This works with anything. It works with notes, walls, windows, whatever. But let's say I wanted to put in another one of these windows, but I couldn't remember what type it was. Instead of going back and trying to dig through my windows, I can click on it and type in the shortcut CS. It stands for Create Similar, and it's essentially like copying it, but it just creates a new one and lets you place it wherever you want. So the difference between, on a window, you can't really tell the difference between create similar and copy, but let me show you the difference between create similar and copy on a wall. So you guys know that if I copied the wall, it copies the entire physical structure of the wall, right? Bless you. But if I wanted to do create similar, what it does, instead of copying the wall, it just goes into the wall command and it draws a basic wall. We're not doing that yet, but it's CO. Yeah. So
Okay, so I was just double checking that it was still, okay.
yep, so it would be CO, but we haven't done those commands yet. And part of the reason why we don't do those for a while is because, remember, this isn't CAD, for those of you guys that know CAD. So I want to teach you guys all of the Revit shortcuts before we even get into CAD, because we don't copy as much. We use create similar much more than we would copy and things like that. Okay, so again, the other bonus command tonight is CS. So bonus commands tonight, in case there's an extra credit question this week, create similar would be one of them, and align. So if I were to say for a couple points extra credit, what are some bonus commands that we went over? Again, they would be extra credit. They wouldn't be, you must know what these are. But create similar would be one, and align would be the other one. Right? Okay, now the other thing that I wanted to show you guys while we're here, we've made a lot of good progress. I would like to, do I want to move on to the second floor yet? Maybe not quite yet. We're moving through things so much faster than I typically do that, sorry, I'm making like a quick decision on whether or not I should hop into the next class and show you guys a couple things, or if this is enough, maybe stopping here and then adding next time. I think that might be what I'm leaning towards. We'll see. Let's do this. Before we go, does anybody have any questions about what we went over tonight? Emily?
So for just like the two windows that we decided to put in, is there a way to do like the equal for two of them?
Yeah, so what you would do in that case is you would do your dimension string, but you would do it including all of the windows, and then equal. I did something wrong there, and I don't know what I did wrong. Oh, well, okay. I should have measured this space too, because now do you see how it's equal, 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 and I needed one more dimension there? Let me undo it. Let me do it this way. I don't know if this way is going to work too, but I'm going to give it a try. I wish I could find, I need to find the center of this right here, which I don't have, unfortunately, but that's what I would need. I know. So we don't have M2P here, but you do have something called reference planes, okay? So a reference plane is a line that you can sketch. It'll never print out, but it shows up on every view. So because I know that I need this midpoint right here, I'm gonna come in and find the middle of that wall, because I know that that's where I want to center my windows to. So again, that was RP. Here's my reference plane. And now I'm going to do my dimensions from the window to the reference plane to the window and then back here. I think that should do it. We'll find out. So reference plane again is just RP. And what I did is I used my object snaps to find the midpoint of the wall, and I just drew that in there. Okay. And again, that was RP. So that was another kind of bonus command too. One thing that I will review, since I did do like another bonus command, I do record all of my lectures, and before you guys go tonight, I'm going to show you guys where you can come back and find our lectures. And part of the reason why I record all of them live is because, again, I didn't expect to talk about reference planes or align, copy, any of those things. So I really do like to record classes live so you guys can really get the actual dynamic of what the class was that evening. Okay, I'm going to hit, actually I'm not going to hit pause again. I am going to come to our class. Let me go to student view before I pull it over for you guys to see. And I just want to make sure that you guys see the assignments. There's some of these that should be closed, like this one shouldn't be open quite yet. No, that one should be open. Okay, no, we're good. So, excuse me. I should have paused it. Okay, so in Canvas, I have an assignment upload practice. I have the Revit 2019 download, and then I have the questions that'll be from our class tonight. So the questions from our class tonight aren't open yet. I typically open those right after class. Again, because sometimes we don't get to certain questions, and then other nights like tonight, there's bonus content that I'll either add as a question or I will add it as an extra credit question, okay? But this will be open by about 10 o'clock tonight, the questions, and they will be due next week before the start of class, so before Tuesday at 6 p.m. But let's go through the upload practice as well as the download. So with the upload practice, what I'm asking for, this isn't worth anything, but I'm just asking you guys to upload a screenshot. And the reason why I'm doing this is that if you don't know how to take a screenshot, I'm going to teach you guys how to do that tonight, because part of your other assignment this week, part of your Revit download, it's kind of a two-part thing. I want to see a screenshot of the Revit icon on your desktop or taskbar, and then Revit open and running on your computer. The reason why I want it that way is I can't tell you how many times people go to download Revit or AutoCAD, and when they go to students.autodesk.com, they're like, here's this fancy program called Adventure I think you should download. And students download it, and they don't even think we are not even using Inventor for this class. So I want to make sure it's Revit. And the reason why I also want to see it open and running is that if you don't have a 64-bit computer, if you have a 32-bit and you downloaded it, I need to make sure that it opens and runs. So that's why I want to see the two different things, okay? So with this last remaining amount of time that we have, we still have an hour. So the lab time is always yours for you to use, but at least the lecture time. What I'd like to do is show you guys how you can take a screenshot on Windows. It's different on a PC. And then I just want to make sure you guys know how to submit assignments. I'm pretty confident that most of you do, but just in case there's any confusion, I would love to help you guys in class. So first, let's do the screenshot. So let's pretend I'm at home. I've got Revit up and running. And what I'd like you guys to do is down here in your search, do you guys see that little circle, and when you hover it says type to search? Click on that for me and start typing in snippet or snipping. So I just did SNI, and this program called Snipping Tool comes up. So let's try this one together. And the snipping tool is essentially a screenshot program. Wait, what does this say? Okay, soon it'll be snip and sketch. Yay. Okay, we'll ignore that for now. Either one will work. We'll do this one for now. But while you're in here, right now the mode is set to be rectangular, which I think is the easiest way, because then you can just drag and click what you want. So you'll notice that right now, see how my screen's grayed out? It's waiting for me to essentially drag and click on the area that I want to snip a screenshot of. You guys see that? And then as soon as I let go, it opens a preview of it on my screen. Do you guys see that as well? So it looks like Revit, but I'm actually in the snipping tool. Everybody with me so far? Anybody need me to go back? No? from here, I want to hit save. And then at this point, it's up to you guys. So I'm going to save it in my Revit folder. And I'm just going to call it Nawabi Screenshot 1. Save. Okay. And then for the desktop icon, you would essentially do the same thing. On a Windows machine, if you want a shortcut to your desktop, hit the Windows button and D at the same time, and it'll take you right to your desktop. So again, Windows D is a shortcut for that. I'm not. What was that? How do you pin it to your taskbar?
If you go to like your Windows start screen,
Mm-hmm.
and then the snipping tool, just right click.
Oh, put the snipping tool there. Sorry. I thought you meant a desktop shortcut button.
Oh,
I was like, oh, that'd be awesome. Unfortunately, I don't use it enough to justify pinning it, but maybe one day it'll be in my favorites. Good. So after you guys get your screenshots, what I'd like you guys to do before you go home is make sure that you can submit your upload practice. So again, what I'm trying to make sure is that you know how to take a screenshot so you can finish this assignment, and 2, you understand how to submit assignments via Canvas. I think the majority of you guys have probably done it by now, but it may have been a minute. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how your other instructors do it. So from here, I'm going to do a file upload. I'm going to choose a file. So let's say that I want this branding package 1. Let's pretend that's my first screenshot. I can still do attach another file. And then on my desktop, here is the actual screenshot. So just pretend that both of those are screenshots. Okay? And if you needed to, you could keep attaching screenshots. I really just need the 2. You may put a comment if you want, either way. And then hit submit assignment. And then you can see over here to the right, submitted, submission details. You can actually see what you've submitted. And then maybe you notice, oh, I didn't mean to send that PDF. You can't retract it, but you can always resubmit, right? So as long as the assignment isn't closed, as long as it's not past the due date, you can still resubmit it. And then on my screen, let me leave student view. When I go to my courses, whenever I log in here, I already have 3 things to grade. Do you guys see over here? I get that little notification. So that's why I love doing everything in Canvas. It just pops up right there. And I really pride myself on getting things graded within like the 2 weeks that you guys turn it in and back to you, because I don't think anybody wants to wait until the end of the semester to find out that they're getting a C. Nobody will, but I just like to turn things in so that you guys are getting my feedback, that you see like your grade. So if there's any adjustments that you need to make, you can make it sooner than the end of the semester. Okay? Any questions on submitting on what I just went through? No? Okay. All right, the last thing that I want to show you guys then